Former United States Secretary of State Henry Kissinger died on Wednesday at the age of 100. In the 1970s, Kissinger had a hand in many of the epoch-changing global events of the decade while serving as Secretary of State under Republican Presidents Richard Nixon and Gerald Ford. The German-born Jewish refugees' efforts led to the diplomatic opening of China, landmark U.S.-Soviet arms control talks, expanded ties between Israel and the Arab neighbors, and the Paris Peace Accord with North Vietnam. His 1973 Peace Prize, awarded jointly to North Vietnam's Lee Duc, though who would decline it, was one of the most controversial ever. And in the India-Pakistan War of 71, Nixon and Kissinger were heavily criticized for tilting towards Pakistan. Kissinger died at his home in Connecticut. He was active into his 90s, testifying before a Senate committee that the nuclear threat posed by North Korea. Well, for more on that story, we've got Ira Spitzer joining us from San Francisco. Ira, good morning. How does one take a look at this particular demise of Henry Kissinger? The world remembers him for, very, very different reasons. How would you call it? Was he a controversial face, yet somebody who changed the world order?
Well, he was certainly both of those things. Few people in history have had as much of an influence on global events as Henry Kissinger. We just heard there about some of his, the involvement that he had in numerous world-shaping events of the 20th century. Of course, the Cold War, as well as diplomatic efforts in the Middle East and South America and Asia, of course. So a tremendous influence, and an influence that extended all the way up until he turned 100. Over the summer, he met with Chinese President Xi Jinping in Beijing. So Henry Kissinger, certainly a very influential life, an important life, but also a controversial life. This is a man who has many critics who say that he often would put U.S. diplomatic interests and his own interests ahead of issues like human rights abuses and other abuses of power and things that went against some of the democratic values which Kissinger and the U.S. claimed to be perpetrating. So there are a number of people that throughout his life have called him a war criminal, have questioned things such as his support of Pakistan in the India-Pakistan War of 1971, his alliances with and support of military coups in Chile and Argentina, overthrowing the democratically elected governments there because of their closeness to the Soviet Union, as well as a number of issues. The Vietnam War, well, he received the Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts to help end that war. His secret bombing, the U.S.'s secret bombing of Cambodia during that war, is really a black mark on his legacy for some of his critics. So a complicated legacy for sure, and a legacy that that lasted all the way basically up until his death at the age of 100.
Okay, he served as the national security advisor during the Nixon and the Ford, with the Ford administrations. Do you feel his significance was more because he was distinctive and also, very dependable?
Well, he certainly was a master at statecraft and at the art of politics, as I think his career is clear evidence of his tremendous ability to influence leaders, to act as an advisor to both the people that he worked under, as well as as many others, both in Washington as well as abroad. This is somebody with an amazing network of contacts, and of course a ruthless edge to his the way that he conducted foreign policy that was tremendously effective, certainly in making things happen and bending events of the world to his will. He, of course, had a tremendous influence on the Cold War with his policies towards China, ultimately allowing the relationship, diplomatic relations between Washington and Beijing to open up in the 1970s. So clearly, Henry Kissinger was somebody who, not to be taken lightly, given the amount of success that he was able to achieve with his diplomatic efforts.
Okay, would it be right to say that, Kissinger somewhere understood the axis of power, and he also understood that this could go either ways. It could be a heads or it could be a tails, and that's what led to the success that he managed to get as a diplomat.
Right, I think that's a great way to put it. He is known for Realpolitik, the German word that means not conducting politics through idealism, but rather using what the situation on the ground to dictate what is possible and then to act accordingly. And he demonstrated that throughout his career, that if the circumstances were not perhaps favorable to his interests, he would simply negotiate and do the best with what was available. Now, of course, that same Realpolitik is something that his critics say allowed him to get his hands dirty, as some would say, in perpetrating some of these problems and conflicts around the world, which he simply accepted as a cost of doing business. At least that's what his critics would say. So again, that was a large part of his effectiveness, was the ability to simply to understand these diplomatic situations as they were, and use the facts on the ground to come out with an outcome that he deemed preferable to U.S. interests and to his own interests.